Hey everybody, it's Angie from Trips with Angie. I'm a travel agent who loves sharing my reviews and tours as I travel around the world. I especially like cruises, all-inclusive resorts, and escorted tours. Today, we're talking about all-inclusive resorts. Specifically the question, if you're traveling with a group where everyone is over the age of 18, how do you decide if you want to go to a family-friendly resort or an adults-only all-inclusive resort? Hopefully you're a subscriber, so you've seen some of my over 100 all-inclusive resort tours here on the channel. If not, I invite you to subscribe. So when we talk about all-inclusive resorts, what are we talking about? That's a resort that includes your meals, beer, wine, cocktails, activities, and entertainment. They're very common in the Caribbean and Mexico, especially in Jamaica and the Dominican Republic, though there are some all over the world. When we think about the different age groupings within different resorts, so some resorts are really geared towards families with younger kids, some are geared towards all ages. Then you have family resorts that may have an adults only section. So for instance, at the Hyatt Ziva Cancun, they have a tower called the Turquoise Tower that is just for adults over the age of 18. They have access to a special rooftop pool, but your access to the common areas, particularly the restaurants, you're going to be with families with potentially younger children. So something to keep in mind. And then you have your adults only resorts, which restrict guests to being over the age of 18. As a reminder, 18 is the drinking age most places outside of the United States. So that's why 18 is the age cutoff for many of these adults only resorts. So when I work with clients that are facing this dilemma, the first thing we talk about is what kind of vibe are you looking for at the resort? Family resorts tend to be more lively. They tend to have more activities. Adults only resorts tend to be more chill and relaxing because initially they were designed for couples doing romantic trips, things like honeymoons or anniversary trips. Now there have been new brands that have come out that are geared more towards friend trips. So Breathless Resorts is a great example. These are resorts that are geared towards less romantic trips and more fun trips. So they'll have more pool parties, more risque entertainment. They're really for people who want to come and have an active good time. But in general, adults only resorts do tend to be a little more chill, though each resort has its own personality, as you've seen from my resort tours. When it comes to activities and entertainment, you may see a difference between family-friendly resorts and adults-only all-inclusive resorts, especially when it comes to water parks. So for instance, when we're talking about a huge family-friendly resort like the Grand at Moon Palace, you're gonna find a big water park with water slides, splash park, lazy rivers, all types of fun activities. It's pretty rare to find an adults-only resort with a water park. Now, places like Hyatt Ziva Cap Cana, which is a family resort, is next door to Hyatt Zilara Cap Cana, and they share access to a water park. So you may be able to find an example like that, but again, you're gonna have kids in the water park. So if you're truly looking for a vacation where you do not see anyone under the age of 18, you're gonna wanna book an adults only resort that is just for adults. Adults only resorts do have activities. So for instance, we stayed at Secrets Maroma and we were painting in the garden. They had bingo in the pool. So depending on the resort, you're gonna find more or less activities based on the vibe. So don't worry, you don't have to give up activities for an adults only resort, but they're just gonna be a little bit different than what you would find at a family-friendly resort. Another big difference is dining. So I would really think about the palates or what the people like to eat who are coming with you. Some adults prefer a family-friendly resort because they do have more simple foods, more American foods, foods that kids would like, which matches exactly what they like. Some of the adults only resorts, especially the El Dorado resorts, their dining can be more gourmet, more refined. It'll be really hard to find like a steak with French fries, that type of thing. So I think it's really important to think about what do people in your group like to eat and to make sure that the resort you're picking matches that. While the meals at El Dorado were fantastic and fancy and I really love them, there were some people that we met at the resort who were really frustrated that they just couldn't get something very simple that they liked. Another consideration when you're thinking about what type of resort you want is who's going to be rooming together. Now, as I said before, adults-only resorts were designed for couples in the beginning, so they tend to have more rooms with king beds and less rooms with 2 beds. That can be an issue if you're trying to have a big group of girlfriends go together and they all want to have their own bed, or you're on an extended family trip where you'll have brothers and sisters staying in the same room, or just people who don't want to share a king bed together. In that case, a lot of the groups I work with sometimes pick a family resort just so they can make sure everybody has their own bed and there's enough rooms with 2 beds to accommodate everyone. This also applies to bathrooms. So in many adult-only resorts, especially the rooms with king beds, they will have open bathrooms, meaning that there's not a lot of privacy within the bathroom. So that's always something we look at when we're helping clients pick a resort is who's rooming together, how much privacy do they need, and do they need their own bed? That's going to be a big indicator of what type of resort we want to look at. The other thing to consider is how large is your group? I find family-friendly resorts in general do a better job at dealing with groups of 8 to 10 people because they're used to larger extended families than adult-only resorts that may be used to dealing with couples or groups of 1 or 2 couples coming together. If you're trying to get a group of 20, 30 people together, a lot of times a family-friendly resort is going to be an easier option because they will have larger tables. It will be easier to get your group together, especially if you want to have dinner together in the buffet or getting an advanced dining reservation at one of the larger a la carte dinner places. So overall, as we help clients figure out whether or not a family-friendly, all-inclusive resort or an adults-only resort is best for their upcoming trip, I think it's really important to think about what's the vibe you want, who's going, what do they like to eat, and what type of room situation is going to be the best for your vacation. What do you think? Have you traveled to a family-friendly resort when everybody was over the age of 18? How was it? Would you recommend it? What experiences have you had at adult-only resorts? Let me know in the comments. And then here's some videos YouTube and I thought you might like.